Welcome to another episode of the Biblical Story Series, and I'm Pastor Anthony, and this is Brendan, and we've been talking about what Jesus accomplished on the cross, different aspects of it, and today, building from Brendan's article, we're going to talk about the concept and doctrine of propitiation. So it sounds like a big word, but we'll kind of simplify it and unpack it. So I'll ask Brendan some questions, given that he wrote the latest article, an excellent article. By the way, I commend you to compliment this video. So Brendan, tell us about what propitiation means. It's a concept through the New Testament. So explain that to us.
Okay, propitiation is one of the many redemptive works that Jesus did on the cross. And I say in the article that it sounds like a fancy schmancy word, but it's relatively easy to understand. So consider for a moment that God, while being a God of love, is also a God of justice. He's completely holy, completely righteous. He has this perfect, beautiful law he set out for how his creation is to conduct itself. And when we sin, whoever sins rebels against that law. In doing so, they rack up a sin debt. They incur his holy and righteous just wrath. For if he did not have wrath towards evil, if he did not have wrath and did not punish evil, then he would not be a just and righteous moral judge. He would be an unjust judge. And because of that, we must find a way to appease this wrath if we wish to be at one with him, if we wish to be atoned with him. We need to find a way to have this wrath reconciled. And that happens through Jesus Christ dying on the cross, in which he takes the wrath of God that was directed towards us. He takes the brunt of justice for us because we could not. That is propitiation.
Okay, well, very well described. So you said that propitiation is an aspect of, God's redemptive work, Christ's redemptive work on the cross. How is this different, but also complementary to the doctrine of justification, which you talked about a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, all the aspects of the redemptive works of Jesus on the cross are complementary. And I could see how justification and propitiation in particular you might get confused with. Justification, I would look at the distinctive in that as justification is the moment we are reconciled to God. We are able to approach him in relationship. We are made new, a new creation. We are able to, as I said before, be in relationship with him. Whereas propitiation is the appeasing, the removal of his wrath towards us that allows for justification, but it is not justification. Okay.
And you had stated too, and I certainly agree with what you said about justification, but you stated too a couple of weeks ago that justification is sin, the debt of sin, the guilt of sin is completely removed. And it is legally, just as though we have never sinned because we have been justified. It is completely and
it's
totally
not as
removed.
If sin is gone.
It is gone. It is gone. And so the propitiation is the other side of this, is that the anger of God is gone. Our sin is gone. The anger of God is gone as well. So that just kind of brings a fuller picture of what the cross has accomplished. So how does our understanding propitiation, appeasing the anger, the wrath of God, complement or help us to understand the love of God? Because in our culture today, people said if you're loving, if God is loving, why would he be angry or wrathful at people? But another side says because he is loving, he is angry, he is wrathful at the sin of people. So how does the love and the wrath complement each other in the character of God?
Yeah, I say in the article, as you stated right there, critics of God, critics of Christianity would say, how can a loving deity ever punish his created in wrath? How can he ever send them to hell? And I think the doctrine of propitiation does the opposite of that, though. It doesn't show God's hate. It doesn't show God's evil or cold-heartedness. It shows his love, in that the doctrine of propitiation tells us that God came down in the flesh to us because he knew we could not appease his wrath. He knew that we could not take on the brunt of justice out of our own strength, out of our own righteousness. He knew we needed someone else. And because of that, he came down in the flesh, and he suffered and died a humiliation, a torturous death. He hung up on a cross, took a punishment we were supposed to have, so that we might be reconciled, so that we might be atoned, so that we might be justified. So his wrath will be propitiated, kind of bring all of it together. That shows tremendous love for us. I don't think that shows hate. That shows tremendous love and concern and compassion, that he would be so mindful of us, that he would care for us so much, that he would do that. He would endure humiliation and torture and death at our hands to save us.
Yeah. And, love, when God's creation, his people who he loves, they are defacing one another, they are hurting one another, they are violating and flaunting all that is good. For God not to have anger towards that means that his love will be practically useless. He would be kind of the doting grandfather in the sky, who's kind of senile and detached from his creation. And so love means if you love somebody, you're going to be angry when they are being hurt, or when things are not going in a way that's going to be destructive for them. And so God's love is greater than his anger, and he overcame that on the cross. He dealt with that. Final question is a lot of people struggle with the sense that God is angry with them, or God is displeased with them, or they're just not quite meeting where they need to be, and God is always just angry and fed up. How does the doctrine of propitiation help us to deal with this sense or this fear we have of God, in the sense of him being angry or always displeased with us, or even displeased a little bit with us?
Well, it's like I said before, the idea that the creator and sustainer of the universe cared about us so much that he came down into our time and space. An infinite being came down into a finite world, which must have been so foreign, not foreign to him, but it must have felt remarkably constraining that he did that, and that he suffered and died for us to appease, to bring justice to what we did, to take a punishment that he did not deserve, but that we deserved. I think that shows love. And I know I'm repeating what I said last time, but I think the answer is very similar. This does not demonstrate a God who is angry or mad or who hates his creation. This demonstrates a God who would do anything for his creation. This demonstrates a God of unimaginable, incomprehensible love.
Yes. And when God is displeased with us, it's not because we have ticked him off. It is because we're living a life that's going to hurt us. And so because of that, he brings in correction. As the Bible says, a loving parent who loves her parent will discipline, will correct them, and it's unpleasant. But it's for their good. It's out of love. And if he didn't do that. And so the anger, the wrath of God is not about God being ticked off and somehow we've got to try to appease him and make ours. We can't do that.
Right.
Jesus did that completely on the cross. And so now when God corrects us, it is because he is bringing out our best, and he's bringing us back to the original intention for which he's created our lives. So, Brendan, I appreciate the article, and this is such a vital concept for us as we grow in our faith, and it is an awesome concept that helps us to elevate our worship and our trust and our continued walk of faithfulness with God. So appreciate the article, and until next week, we'll see you then.
Until next week.
Thank you for joining Anthony and I today on the Biblical Story video series. Please subscribe to the Crossroads CCO YouTube channel, like, and share this video. Until next time.